Who wants to hear about menstruation? Oh, good, because that's the only story I've got. I recently had a 6-week period. So for those of you who are not familiar, that's not normal. So I had a parallel thing going on, so I never went to the doctor about it. My mom, my 73-year-old mom, did this great trick of a dead person. She like jumped into her grave and pulled some dirt over herself and said, "Catch me if you can." And I jumped right in after her. I was like, "Oh no, you don't." I called a wellness check. I couldn't get a hold of her. I called a wellness check on her, which is one of the two things that I think are the most amazing about civilized society. Is one, you can call and get a car to come wherever you are and take you to wherever you are, and you just give them some money. And the other thing is if you can't get hold of somebody and you're really worried, you can call the police in that city and they will do what's called a wellness check. And this wellness check, they found my mom on the floor, alive. She'd been there for 18 hours. So thank God for wellness checks, right? If you ever need one, don't hesitate to call. They're happy to do it. So they got my mom to the emergency, and they started, she was really busy during those 18 hours, sort of doing a big shutdown, like all the lights, shut down the store. But when they got her to the emergency room, the modern medicine miracles just started pumping in her arms and all that, and getting her back on the right track again. Her brain, perfectly fine. Her body, quite the recovery is going to be needed. So at that same day, my period started. So my mom was in the hospital for 12 days, so I have 12 days of a period so far. And I have 12 days of a day 2 period. I don't know if anybody... Okay, so day 1 period. I don't know how to explain a day 1 period. Day 1 period is like when you're making...
Oh, no. This is going on YouTube.
This is going on YouTube. Day 1 period is like when you're making a Bloody Mary and you turn over the tomato juice and it all pours into your drink. That's a day 1 period. So it wasn't that. It's day 2 period. Day 1 period is the day that even people who have sex on their period don't have sex that day, because it looks like a graffiti artist was all over your bedroom. Day 1 period. Day 1 period, serious business. Day 2 period, though, not far off. So I've been having a 12-day day 2 period. And at that point, my mom is well enough to come home. Oh, well, no, not really. My mom is well enough to be obstinate enough to let me take her home. Because she's supposed to go to a secondary facility where they're going to do like physical therapy on her legs, and she's got this massive edema on her arms. No, my mom does not have 4 arms. My mom, although she does seem like a Hindu goddess, she is not. She has 4 limbs. She has massive edema on 4 limbs still. She has a whole bunch of details that are problematic, but she says, "No, I'm not going to a nursing home to get better, to go back into independent living. My daughter's going to take me home." And I go, "Yes, that's true, because she is blood of my blood. She brought me to this world. She took me from nothing. All the atoms in the sky, she pulled them down into her womb, and she pushed me out into this world with joy and pain and happiness and made me the person I am today. And that person is a person who's going to take her mom home, get me some FMLA paperwork, used all my sick leave. We get to her house. I have 15 more days of day 2 period. But I've got other things on my mind, so I'm thinking, well, I got this other big, huge thing that I'm working on here. I'm working on the baby steps with mom. I am deadlifting her in and out of bed, because absolutely not, she should not have come home. She should have went to a nursing home. where they have special people 24 hours a day, they can take shifts. No, it's just me, just doing lots of lunges. At one point, I lift my mom out of bed, and I'm getting her into the little wheelchair thing, and she says right into my ear, she says, "I don't even know why they let me out of the hospital." I'm like, I agree. So people who hadn't seen me for 2 weeks, I actually lost weight in 2 weeks just lifting my mom around in 2 weeks. Also, menstruating. But I'm like, I'm starting to get worried about it, but I'm like, I can't take the time to go to the doctor yet. Well, we get to a point where I'm going to take my mom back to my house now. We're going to like upgrade. She's going to come home with me. I'm going to go back to work for 40-hour week, and we're going to have care come in, and then she's going to be with me while she sort of regains her muscle strength and all those kinds of things. And so I go back to work, and the first day I go back to work, well, first of all, the night before I go back to work, one of the things that shut down when my mom's body was shutting down was her ability to process sugars correctly. And so she now has diabetes. She's 73, never had diabetes before. As she tells the doctor when he says, "You have diabetes," she says, "I have never been told I have diabetes in my life." He goes, "Well, I'm telling you right now you have diabetes." She goes, "I've never had diabetes before." And he goes, "Well, there's a first day for everything. Today's your first day with diabetes." So now we're doing blood checks on her, and her blood checks, and I hope the diabetics in here, just hold your chairs real quick, because my mom checks it over 600, which if you don't know anything about diabetes is like diabetic coma time. But because my mother is obstinate and comes from the old school where you just crawl into the cave and with your daughter, and if you live, you just walk out a great success story, and if you die, that was God's will, whatever. 600, let's just check it in a few more hours and see what it says. So I'm checking mine and hers, and finally I convince her after 3 checks where mine is like 80, 92, and 102, and hers is over 600, over 600, over 600. I finally get her to go to the emergency room, because that's where you have to deal with that kind of thing. She doesn't want to go back to the doctors. You know, they might trick her into staying there. And so I take her to the emergency room, I spend the night there, and then I go to work for the first day, still menstruating. Now, at work, I don't even know, like after having a baby period, like shit's going, like I'm gonna go get a bed next to mom now, because I'm at work and things just become an emergency. And I don't know, you know how hello man, hello men are here. Men know that there are men that wear boxers and men that wear briefs, and there's kind of not a lot of crossover. Well, women, there are tampon wearers and there are pad wearers. And there's not a lot of crossover, and so I say to my friend, I'm going to use 1929 slang because I know it, because I know a lot of stupid, worthless stuff. And where am I ever going to get to use this? Where am I ever going to tell a menstrual story again? This may be a better, right? So in the 1920s, they used to call tampons unspeakables. And they used to call pads wire-encased strap-on secretion cages. So I say to my friend at work, "Do you have an unspeakable?" "I've got my filthy drippings." And she says, "No, I'm really sorry. All I wear is the wire-encased strap-on secretion cage." And I say, "I'm sorry you don't you're such a Luddite and you don't like anything invented after 5 BC. And she says, just because you always need something in your vagina. But anyway, I digress. So I am bleeding through a Super Plus tampon every half hour. No, every 20 minutes. And she says, this is a dire situation. I'm going to leave work and I'm going to get you tampons and pads. We're going to double down on this. She brings me tampons, which I know how those work. Because I always need something in my vagina. But this pad she brings me is like this size, closed. And so I open it, and it's like origami. It keeps opening. And I'm expecting like this much, right? Because avert your eyes if this is going to be offensive, but this much fits this much, this much, fits. It's this long. I'm like, I literally don't know what to do with this. I am standing in the bathroom with this monstrosity, and I'm like, what the fuckity fuck is... And I'm staring at this, trying to figure out the science of it. So I decide in the little piece that I think should fit right in the front there, I see that there's extra quilting. So I'm like, and it's almond shaped. So I say, oh, that's like a shape match. I'll just put that where my vagina is. And then apparently the rest of this mess is going to go all up over here. And so it is, I find out later, for everybody who wears pads, it's a night pad, which I guess makes sense. You lay down in gravity and all that tail end is for all the filthy drippings to go that way. So I am wearing this, and I texted her, this is honestly what I texted her. I said, thank you for the Hindenburg of that pad. She said, desperate times, desperate measures. And I should have texted back, oh, the humanity, but I was too grateful. I didn't want to seem ungrateful. So my body is going completely haywire. I am having emergency level. I start to wonder, which I shouldn't have waited so long to wonder this, but I start to wonder, am I bleeding to death out of my vagina? Because that would be ironic, but it certainly is possible, I suppose, right? Well, the parallel to this story, unfortunately, is when my body goes completely and totally haywire, also my mom's body goes completely and totally haywire. And what we thought was the whole problem all the way along ends up being wrong. And what I thought was the problem with me at the end was I was dying, I was bleeding to death, but in the end, it ended up being my mom died. My mom, 2 weeks ago, sitting by her bedside, said to me, bedridden, said to me, you just sit here so I don't wander away. And then she never woke up.